Not bad scenery as we get settled in for a 10 race Wednesday afternoon. Start of a new week here. It's sunny and clear, fast and firm Gulfstream Park off that virtual yearbook, Gulfstream Park through the years. Still writing a new chapter, everybody. Our 2020 summer meet in full swing. We're back at it after Mondays and Tuesday with no racing. And sure enough, on this Wednesday, July the 8th, we'll get tied on about 60 minutes out from that first race at 12:05 Eastern. Jason and Ronnie catching up with all of you from our respective studios. It's good to have your company, everybody. And like I said, Ronnie, we're back on the horse literally this afternoon. A lot of money up for grabs in that Jackpot Rainbow Six.
Yeah, we got a $400,000 jackpot guarantee in the Rainbow Six, and I'm looking at the screen here, and it looks like there's almost $10,000 in the Super High Five. Fast main track, firm turf course, so let's get it going.
Absolutely. On a day Keeneland will open up, a uncharted territory for that famed track in Lexington, Kentucky, but a big day at Keeneland, no question about it, with their action-packed 5-day week. And again, here locally in Hallandale Beach, this will be another 4-day week on this Wednesday, July the 8th. Now, going forward, we do have $400,000 in the Jackpot Rainbow Six. Backtracking a second to Sunday's nightcap, there were no singles alive for the entire jackpot, and we saw a solid effort, just held at the wire, but Doll Collection was good in that spot for trainer Ralph Nix off the positive trainer stat we had for that barn, and as a result, $400K up for grabs with the 5th race starting point in today's Jackpot Rainbow Six. Now, with the sun shining, Ronnie, I'll get tied on and try to take a little bit of a shot at this early pick 5 and a first race that not only is just a perfect scene setter per se with a cast of 11, you've got the battle of the white bridles in that spot with Mike Maker sending out 2 and Todd Pletcher sending out 1. Evidently, they like the Maker horse with Manessa's riding early in the betting in the 6 Aloha Kitten, but that is obviously subject to change. I've got another 3-horse spread in the second as we close down the second half of the early double with some 2-year-old maiden claimers. Back to Mike Maker with the 1 Maccabeam in the third, along with Mark Cassie and Ken McPeak, in fact, with the 6 Cardiac Kid, 3 logicals. I built this play around Blossom Bow, Ronnie, in the 4th, who, as far as her last race is concerned, just ran too good to lose. Does she take a step back? Little bit of a concern when you're dealing with the 6250 claimer, but all in all, I thought she was the horse to beat and played this and built this ticket around her for $27, closing things out with 2 very logical-looking horses, including the 7 King of Rock and that 5th race cash out, Ronnie, a horse I know you like quite a bit to start things out in the Rainbow Six.
Yeah, coming out of a good race, number 7 King of Rock. I'm actually singing that horse in the Rainbow Six, but that's for a little later on. We got to get through this early pick 5.
Absolutely. A little bit of a teaser for Ronnie's 400K Jackpot Rainbow Pick 6 ticket, which we'll have during the second segment of this Wednesday edition of Gulfstream Today. Looking at this first race again, I thought it essentially boiled down to the 2 from the Maker barn against the second time out, or third time out rather, number 7 Summer Shore for trainer Todd Pletcher, and you clearly agree, Ronnie, as we've taken the same Maker horse in this spot. I need Tequila's the first one we're going to talk about, and 1 race on the turf, and I still think for her, although Mother Nature hasn't cooperated in her last couple with off-the-turf races, I still think the measuring stick with her and her 3 starts to date is that turf debut because it was the best race she's ever run.
Yeah, she returns to the turf. She's got that tactical speed. You mentioned Mike Maker. You get Miguel Vasquez in the saddle. I did put the other Maker in second, Aloha Kitten, and I just thought that I'd need the Tequila. Well, had a little bit more tactical ability than the 6 Aloha Kitten, who's, dropping after finishing 6th against maiden special weight competition. But that was at Kentucky Downs coming off the layoff today.
That's I think, the linchpin with her, and it scares me a little bit with the fact she has not run since the middle of September at Kentucky Downs. Now, she's been working her last few here at Palm Meadows and then the Gulfstream. Obviously, Mike, on a horse-for-horse basis, probably has one of the biggest operations year-round in a 12-month span here in South Florida. He's got horses at Gulfstream. He's got a string up at Palm Meadows and Boynton Beach. But I do like that she's not technically in off the van from the farm or anything like that, and she's had a series of recent works in South Florida. We'll also mention the Todd Pletcher trained filly in the number 7 Summer Shore, who is by Summerfront, and a similar situation, I think, in many respects and parallels to the number 2, I Need the Tequila, with her just back on the turf this afternoon.
Yeah, got beat a country mile when 6. That was against, on the dirt last time out. Put a line through that. It is Pletcher. Edgard's Eyes, the top this daughter of Summerfront. I thought those were the logical 3 in here. And we even have almost the same super up there. So I think those are the logical horses in the opener.
Well, we start with 11, Ronnie. We'll move on to a cast of 10 in Wednesday's second, the opening race over the main track with this cast of 2-year-old filly, $25,000 to $20,000 maiden claimers. And in looking at this, again, this field that will hit double digits with 10 ready to battle, although there's a lot of guesswork, and that's usually a scenario that you're going to run across in races like this at this time of the year, I feel as though any sort of narrative probably should start with the number 3 special inclusion and how ultimately you feel you should proceed with this filly who's running for the 3rd time today for trainer Gilberto Zerpa. She ran well first out, beaten by a Wesley Ward horse who picked her off late in Sunshine City. She clearly, though, lost all chance last time out. I mean, she broke legitimately slow, that is, from an outside post.
Yeah, she was. You break slow going 4.5 furlongs. It's tough to have a good chance at winning. Gilberto Zerpa, MCL Jaramillo in the saddle again. That's the one with the experience. You went with the 2, Dark Blue Flame. I did go with the number 8, Nag, who's a daughter of a Bahamian Squall, debuting for Ralph Nix. String of useful workouts showing in preparation for that first start. I want to show you a stat on Ralph Nix. This is his time of year. 2-year-old first-time starters, maiden claimers on the dirt. He's 7 for 25, 28%. He's in the money 48% of the time, and he's got a $3.55 return of investment. But the Dark Blue Flame, who you have on top of your ticket, daughter of Mishawish, we haven't seen this type of sire around here with 2-year-olds, I don't think.
Well, I mean, he's a first-crop stallion. We've had a couple run. I'm not sure. I don't think he's notched his first win down. Or maybe he did notch his first winner down here a few weeks ago. I can't remember, but I guess the point is this isn't the first horse we've seen locally at Gulfstream by M. Shawish. I guess for me, the question becomes, will he be the kind of stallion who's going to throw precocious-type horses? It seemed like as his career went on a few years ago with Todd Pletcher, the longer he was around, the older he got, the more effective he became, and the better off he was. So you do have a filly here trained, and what won me over was the fact that she's trained by veteran Timothy Ham, who may not be that familiar of a face we come across all that often in this part of Florida anyway, but he's already had a 2-year-old winner shipping south from Tampa Bay Downs. In fact, he's run 5 2-year-olds this year alone in 2020 at Gulfstream. He won one of those races while 2 others were 2nd and 3rd. So he's been in the money 3 of 5. And Dark Blue Flame was my guess in this race. I've got the Ralph Firster 2nd. And again, do think the horse to beat is the 3 special inclusion in that 2nd on the dirt. We're back on the turf, moving on to Wednesday's 3rd at 1 1/16, a $32,000 to $30,000 claimer. And it looked to me, we're in different spectrums here in the starting gate. I was going to say, I thought the better-looking horses were down. In fact, the best-looking were down towards the inside in the 2 Threshold, who just to me seems properly spotted first time against winners for trainer Mark Casse, and the 1 Maccabim, who's trying the turf today off the claim for trainer Mike Maker. Now, Mike, first time on the turf, first off the claim, is 5 for 29 for 17%. I had noticed the dam herself was 0 for 4. The second dam was a pretty good dirt horse, but there's not really a ton of immediate turf pedigree in the family, but I thought Maccabim might run. You, however, I'm inside, you're going outside with the 7 Kunal over the 8 Strong Ending, who's going to be a good price.
Well, let's first show you a stat on your horse here, 2 Threshold from Mark Casse, maiden winner last out on the turf. He's 15 for 67, 22%, 48% in the money, 180 is the return investment. Now I'll tell you why. I did go with the number 7 Kunal. You look at this horse's past performance. He never had a clean start in a pair of $50,000 optional claimers on the turf at the fairgrounds. He debuts locally for Louis Roussel. Really nice workout pattern showing over the track in preparation for this assignment. I like the spot for this horse. I like that he's been showing speed in the morning, taking a little bit of a shot. I don't know where he is on the morning line. He's actually the morning line favorite in there. And then I went with number 8 Strong Ending, who's stepping up a notch, returning to the turf. He showed some he set a pressured pace. You get in the apprentice Joseph Trios handling that turf return today. So I just thought I liked Kunal a little better in this spot.
No, Kunal's likely to run this afternoon. afternoon. It's been a very good trainer right in off the van, and Louis Russell, who's got good numbers as well, with horses dropping into a claiming race for the first time. In fact, he's 10 for his last 39, winning essentially with 1 out of every 4. Dangerous new face, no question about it, in the third. Now, as far as the fourth, as we volley back over to the main track with this 2 lifetime 6250 on a fast and firm Wednesday, July the 8th, I think most importantly, just from a numbers standpoint and even ability standpoint at this stage of the game, the most important trait of this race or cog is the fact you've got a fairly bulky rematch. 3 in this cast of 7 are coming out of the same race here back on June the 20th. And most importantly, the horse Ronnie and I both picked who's going to be favored today in the number 5, Blossom Bow. She was bet off the board in this race, and considering she had not run since February 21st, I remember scratching my head. She's also in the mix with the 1 Fiamma Mama, who may be a mistake taking her back. She's not the kind of horse that wants to rate. But Blossom Bow, who's the gray there, the number 6, you can tell she's just not happy between horses. Ryder's got a strong hold of her, and she's resenting every second of it. And she is basically out there in no man's land with that horse in purple latched onto her flank. In fact, Fiamma Mama steadied out. This was a pretty roughly run race into the clubhouse turn. Fiamma Mama, again, I think a real mistake taking her back. She is just not the kind of horse that wants to rate. But little went right for Blossom Bow, and I think she pulled the tougher trip. Now, Fiamma Mama doesn't really kick on at this point, running third as they swing for home. But I will give Blossom Bow credit as, I mean, she will give Witch Hunter everything she could handle in this race while having the most taxing trip in this spot.
Yeah, she was really keen early, and the jock was trying to, settle her down and everything. And then she got things together, and she started running again to finish second along the inside there. And I just think the cut back to a 1-turn mile, that was a return from a layoff. Don't forget, duel for the lead, as you saw, finished second. Was the favorite that day against Similar, going a mile in the 16th. So I like the turn back today to the mile.
Who's the biggest danger or threat to her? If we you got to go into this hoping she runs as well as she did. And this was something I had talked about with the 2-to-5 shot here Sunday in Painterfest. It always worries me in races like this, lower level claimers, where you've got a horse in off such a big effort, and even looking at a horse like Painterfest, who just went through the motions and was a well-beaten second at 2-to-5. So I think, for me anyway, Blossom Bow, unless somebody really steps up here, she might be her own worst enemy, not running back to that strong race where she had to make a couple of different moves. Assuming, though, we get the good Blossom Bow, who do you think might be the main threat to her?
Well, the horse you showed in that, in that video right there, Fiamma Mama's trying the 8 furlongs, and she's 3 for 5 in the money. She tracked the pace. You saw she had a steady sharply, hard to get going again. She was 4th in that race you just shown. Maybe with that clean trip and turn back to a mile, she can spring the little bit of an upset over the 5 Blossom Bow, and I closed it with Upsy Daisy Doo stepping up to face winners. Okay, maiden winner last time
I
out.
do like Edgar getting the call on Fiamma Mama, and I think he's going to get her back to what she does best as a front-running speed, and maybe the best tactic to have against a horse in off such a good effort last time out. If you're riding or you're in the camp of Fiamma Mama, maybe just try to get in front of Blossom Bow and let the chips fall where they may. See what happens there in the 4th race this afternoon. As we take a little breather here, we'll take a little time out. We'll be back with plenty more, including that Jackpot Rainbow 6 after this. Sun is shining at about 11:20 a.m. with the mighty Pegasus statue in the background there. In fact, the 3rd largest statue in the United States, trailing only the Statue of Liberty and the birth of the New World in Puerto Rico. That thing is massive and gargantuan, and it's watching over us here in the foreground, a firm turf, a fast main track, and the first of 10 about 45 minutes away. Jason and Ronnie, I'm upstairs, Ronnie downstairs right outside the Paddock Set studio. And as we move forward, Ronnie, into the second full racing week in the new month of July, we've got another weekend naturally upon us, and that includes that Stronach 5 on Friday, July the 10th.
Yeah, we have it started a little early this week at 3:19 p.m. with the sixth race at Laurel. We got our late daily double, races 8 and 9, in part of the sequence. Tough sequence, but boy, do you get rewarded if you hit it.
What did it pay last week? 12,000?
12,000.
Almost 13, right?
Yeah, almost 13,000, and the highest price horse was 1240. So it just always pays well.
It definitely does. Now, we'll see what your Rainbow Six ticket clocks in at as far as the cost for a 20-set increment. We gave everybody a little tease at the top of the broadcast. You like the favorite here in the opening leg, Ronnie, and just quite simply built this thing around the presence of the 7 King Rock for Gargan and Amisael in race 5.
Yeah, I like the way this horse responded to the drop down. He was second in front of that repeat winner and in the front of another couple of next out winners, Danny Gargan, Amisael Jaramillo. So I figured I'd single Larry. I like that horse this afternoon. Had a lot of coverage in the rest of the races. In race 6, Bourbon in May, Robin Take Charge and Rule Yourself. Right into race number 7, our Mercedes Boy the 2, heading to uncharted territory, stretching out to the mile, but got that speed. Going to use the 4 and also the number 1, Illustra. And in race number 8, Bohemian Beat, Don V, really good stat on Efren Loza. We'll show you that in a bit. And the 3 in race number 9, I'm going to use Baccarat Fashion, Bargainaire, and Take Charge Morella from the Dan Peter barn. And in the final race, I went 3 deep in there with the 4, the 6, and the number 10, the 6, O'Driscoll, my top pick.
O'Driscoll may have just timed it right. That is a fairly modest-looking lower-level maiden claimer, and assuming that horse by Twirling Candy runs as well as the last out effort on the dirt, might just be too much racehorse there in the Wednesday nightcap. And I guess there's a similar sentiment to be had here concerning the 7, the presence of the number 7, King of Rock, as we backtrack to this horse's last start right around Memorial Weekend on the final day, in fact, of May. There's not a whole lot to see here other than just a very good effort for the level when this horse dipped in for 12-5 claiming. Sat the pocket and basically just chased inside. He's about to come with the run, the pink sleeves and the white cap. He'll angle out behind Grand Old Par, who had the big speed for Marat Sankal, would come back to win. And just a real big player here, Ronnie, as far as the last out effort goes. He's the benchmark to this entire race.
Yeah, look, that move he was going to make was going to get the leader in that race. Grand Old Par, but did not make it. Finished a good second, and I just no one else in this race really scares me. So I figured here's a spot to single. I mean, nothing but net is a logical contender. Changing barns to the Elizabeth Doble's barn. Geldy makes his first start. He finished second, but it was back in April. But he likes to finish second, that horse.
Yeah, I guess he's only run 4 times. Might be a little bit of a concern, but still, he was beaten by a Gilberto Zerpa horse in Kobe 52. You remember that race? Who got bet, showed speed, and just wired the field.
Yeah, that horse coming back on Friday. Remember handicapping a little yesterday, I believe it was.
Yeah,
so,
he's stepping up against winners and trying more of a 12-5 or 16,000 two-lifetime claimer in Kobe 52. Very logical player here in the 2-0 but net. The Safi horse is interesting on the outside. There's a little bit of a maybe wild card or wise guy flair to the 9 on Cage the Cat, who is a city zip. Do like the city zips on the turf. You just don't know if this horse can run at all, but in terms of moving from a very low-profile barn to one of the best trainers here in South Florida, you've got that working today for Safi, who's got a horse running later on, Ronnie, way later on today in both the Indiana Derby and the Indiana Oaks.
Yeah, he's branching out, we'll say. So good luck to the connections there at Indiana on a Wednesday. That's very interesting.
Absolutely. 2 big stakes there. And again, Keeneland starting at about 1:105 this afternoon. Now, the late pick 5 on this 10-race Wednesday as we start our run from the half-mile pole begins on the turf at 1 mile and a furlong. I guess depending upon your stance here, maybe I'm a little light. This is not a 2-horse race, and I don't want to mince words here. But I just ultimately prefer the 4, My Point Exactly, and the number 8, Colonist, more than the others in that spot. But a good little turf claimer to start the action. the inside three as easy as 1, 2, 3, I'm hoping, in race number 7. 3 very eclectic horses on paper between the one Alustra, the Deuce R Mercedes boy, and the old class horse from last summer in Ice-T, who's trying his luck for a new barn today. Coverage the remainder of the way. I just could not find a single. I almost pulled the trigger, Ronnie, in race number 9 with the one Baccarat Fashion, but she's a little bit of a guessing game type proposition. I think she'll run a lot better than she has in her last couple, but she's still taking a fairly big dip down to 25K claiming. And I'll tell you, if the 2 Sayonara Baby can run anywhere back to her effort here, 2 back for her on May 7th when she lost a tough one to a Win Machine in Flora Fantasy, she'll have a big say in the outcome. She's just a little bit inconsistent, that horse.
Yeah, she's. I had a little further down on the ticket. I put the one horse on top of my ticket too, but that big drop from 62,500 is a little shaky proposition.
Now, 20K claimers going a mile and a furlong in this Wednesday 6th race. And there were some interesting last-out trips. On the turf, oftentimes racing luck can be a make-or-break deal. And in the case of basically, it's going to be 2 replays featuring 3 horses that are running today. All 3 of these horses, in one way or another, had difficult last-out trips. To me, the most egregious one, and not that the rider did anything wrong, it was a case where you sometimes live by the sword, you die by the sword. And we'll go to this gelding, and he's an 8-year-old and a hard hitter who's got 12 lifetime victories from 61 starts. There were a couple of different junctures in this race where the Gray My Point Exactly found himself just in a tough spot. The first and the more minor one was into the backstretch where Paco looked like he wanted to maybe slip up in there. The door got closed on him, and he had a steady. Again, not the end of the world, and My Point Exactly recovered in a matter of a couple of strides and basically tracked in the pocket. And it looked like he was getting the best of everything, this horse, as a monstrous even money favorite. But as I was saying, you know, you can be the hero or the scapegoat sometimes when you stay down in there, and this was a case where that entire field bunched up, and here's the result, Rodney. I mean, this horse is completely buried behind an iron curtain as they approach the 8th pole.
Yeah, I never got a chance to strut his stuff in there. I just think that he's better when he's closer to the lead, which he didn't really get a chance to do in that particular race. And, you know, a good video to show that he just didn't have that clean trip. Like what you said, that happens a lot of times on the turf. You're trying to get that inside move. Paco absolutely tried to do his best, but couldn't get through in there. I just saw a lot of speed in here, and that's why I backed off this horse a little bit more. I see just tons of speed, and I think that horse runs well when he's got, you know, closer to the lead. If he gets the trip, Carlos David just doing a great job. But the horse that you have in third, we'll show the other video. That's the one I'm going to talk about.
Yeah,
next.
You want to take us through, my friend, with Bourbon and May and Colonist, as far as just not a lot went well or right for these horses. We've made a lot of those outside posts, and in the case of the 10 Bourbon and May, and I guess to a lesser extent the 5 Colonists, it was just a case. I didn't think either one of these horses in a big field was ever in a position where they were able to go on with it. Now, Bourbon and May is like 4 wide. He's in the Paradise Farms black and gold. Tough to win at this point in the race when you're that far back losing ground.
Yeah, he was just stuck behind that wall of horses, you know, in the 35 condition claimer going a mile. He's a son of More Than Ready, and he likes to run late. He just never had a chance. And like I'm going back, I'm going to sound a little like a broken record. I just see a lot of speed in this race with Robin Takes Charge. And, you know, other horses in the race, I thought maybe with a clean trip, he sits a good one.
And that's my feeling with the 8 Colonist. You've got the 2 Todd Pletcher, one former Pletcher horse and the current tap horse, and the 8 Colonist, Bourbon and May. Ronnie's horse obviously had gone through Todd's operation and is now with trainer Mike Maker. In the case of Colonist, he's the now Todd horse. I'm giving him one more chance. He just has not remotely looked like the same. I mean, not even a fraction of what he was. Not that he was a monster or anything like that, but held a pretty high level for quite some time in 2018 in Southern Cali. He has not looked like, again, a fraction of the horse he was, but he's 4th back off that year-plus layoff, and I'm going to give him one more chance chance, dipping down to 20K claiming. It's a good little race, though, Ronnie, to start the late 5, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a mile and an eighth, so, things changing there. Why I put the 10 in second. He just liked the way he ran at that 9-furlong distance. So a wide open affair, and that's why you see the board like that. It's a great betting race.
Now, the 7th, as we get back and venture back to the main track, to me anyway, was a case where the 3 inside horses, they won me over as far as my preference. I'm taking the 1 Alustra, who seemed to kind of have a vibe of pretty tough and overachieving Florida bred. Hasn't won all his races, mind you, but a horse that was running hard at a pretty high level consistently. Things seem to go a little bit sideways heading into that layoff here. And he's got a layoff of close to 70 days as he's backing down in class. I thought he'd run. I worry about your horse, the 2R Mercedes boy. I just worry about him, Ronnie. Not his last race. His last race was fine against a horse and Win with Pride, who looked like a claiming crown type caliber horse, the way he dominated that race on June 20th. I worry about him staying 8 furlongs. I really do.
Yeah, as I said, he's heading to uncharted territory. He stretches out to the mile for the first time. He rallied to finish second against those 30 condition claimers going 7. He's got that speed. Can he carry it? I was torn. That's why I went 3 deep in this race with the 4 and your top pick, Alustra, on top of my ticket. If our Mercedes boys gets the difference, I think the tactical speed is going to help that horse this afternoon.
And Ice-T, the 3, is trying to refine. I highly doubt, it just seems very improbable that we get the Ice-T that was running down here last summer when he went through the roof for Mary Epler. But there's talent there, and I'm wondering, changing scenery, he's third back after another case of starts and fits. Does he maybe refine some of his old luster here this afternoon?
Well, he's got that back class. I think you got to put him somewhere on your ticket.
Yeah, definitely is. He's off the claim for Marcio Navarro and Joseph Trejos. And we'll move on to race 8. We're on the turf going 5 with this $32,000 to $30,000 claimer. There's 2 very main horses in this race. I think the race, again, the upper echelon conflates into 2 camps. One of them, the local, is Bahamian Beat. And there's really not a lot to add other than this horse running a fine race last time out in a race, as we show you from the May 22nd card. I still, in a way, can't believe he lost this photo. This was just a brutal beat for a horse that was a good price for Ralph Nix, that did everything but win. He spurts off the turn, put away everybody early, and just never had a chance to collect himself. And it'll be a cavalry charge down to the finish line, and he will lose a tough one to Mr. Nappy. He's also, Ronnie, I'm sure you saw, this race has been super live in the preceding weeks.
Yeah, a trio of next out winners, and that was at the $40,000 level. So he found these $32,000 claimers. He didn't drop this horse. I think is just the spot that there was for Ralph Nix. But the number 9, Don V, a gelded son of Street Sense, debuts locally for Efren Loza Jr., failed to show much in the special weight debut, going a mile. It was at Santa Anita during January. But look at this stat I found. I wanted to show the stat on Efren Loza Jr. First after a trainer switch on the dirt, he's 9 for 20, 45%, 55% in the money, and a $3.80 return of investment. So he's working sharply at Gulfstream Park West, and this barn just does an excellent job with this type of runner.
Okay. Look, did you mean to write turf? Because this is a turf race,
Yeah,
not
turf.
a dirt race.
Yeah, turf.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a turf stat right there.
Yeah, turf stat, yeah.
Gotcha. Now, so what is it, 9 for 20 off a trainer change
Yeah.
on the turf?
Yeah, 9 for 20. So, yeah, on a trainer change, just straight out. So.
Yeah, no, it's...
Well, let me double check that, too. Maybe I did it for the dirt. I think it is turf.
Yeah, no, fair enough. This is a good barn. A barn that maybe doesn't saddle all that many horses, but we know Efren is quite shrewd and sagacious. And I noticed, too, 3 turf-winning siblings in the family, and the dam herself won 4 races on the grass. So there's, in addition to having first-time Efren with a new face, who's just, that in itself is intriguing, you do have that pedigree to fall back on the turf. Now, the 9th, as we, again, we basically have alternated one after another, turf to dirt and vice versa. We're on the main here with this allowance optional claimer, and I think you and I both picked the biggest key to the race and the dialogue here. And do we get a better performance. I think we're going. She may not win, but I think Bacharach Fashion is going to have more of an impact than maybe she's had in her last couple, just for the obvious dip down to 25 claiming.
Yeah, taking that immediate drop to the 25 level after failing to show much at first start after being halted for 62,500 by Mike Maker a couple of starts back. Quarterback, Edgar Zayas is going to quarterback that big drop. I think they grabbed it. They say, well, okay, we know what we got. Let's run it for $25,000 and see how it goes in here. I put Bargain Air in second and Take Charge Marilla for that one, the Dan Peter Bond, who was also didn't show much against those $62,500 types when in the Todd Pletcher bond.
Yeah, she's bounced from Kieran over to Todd and now privately purchased by Dan Pita. We'll see how she does in this race, but boy, backtracking to Sunday, Ronnie, just this barn's got a really nice Florida-bred 2-year-old filly by Kozan, who was second again behind Papa 2 against the boys.
Yeah, that horse ran great, broke slowly, and just came in the stretch, and it didn't ask her, didn't, anything, and she was able to, close the gap on a really nice horse called Papa 2, who's a perfect 2 for 2.
And again, I misspoke. I said the Desert Vixen was 7. It's 6 to start that opening leg of the Florida Sire Stakes a bit later on in the month of July, right towards the end of the month, early August is when that series begins. Anyway, let's wrap it up here. 10th race. We've got a horse who, as I was saying when Ronnie had talked about his Rainbow Six, you prefer, like I do, the 6-0 Driscoll. Colt by Twirling Candy, English Channel Dam. He's just run, in context to this field, he's got the best-looking races overall, although they've been on the dirt. But pedigree says, for this level anyway, he's supposed to be able to handle the switch over to the turf.
Yeah, I mean, he was third and second, going 6.5 furlongs on the dirt, and that's what he showed, speed in those races. And this course being 5 on the turf, I thought on that form, I used the 10, nobody knows nothing now in the Dave Katzenbarn. Dave Casson, just a great trainer. Anytime I see something in his barn, this horse got fan wide last time out, I'm going to use him somewhere on my ticket.
Well, what's wild with that horse, because he's a 6-year-old. I mean, he's a 6-year-old maiden who's had quite a bit of a convalescing year after year. Not a lot has gone well for the 10. Nobody knows nothing. What I found fascinating about this horse is not only his good turf races earlier in his career, one in late 2017, the other in early 18. But with that second turf start out of him, he was third in that race behind Imprimis when Imprimis was breaking his maiden.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, and like I said, anytime Dave has a horse, and you got to take a look at it. And this is a good spot. I mean, it's 12-5 down to 10-5.
All right, as we take a little breather here on Gulfstream today, Ronnie and I with all of you throughout the afternoon. We'll send it on up to track announcer Pete Aiello for those scratches and changes.